Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone present here. Today we gathered here to celebrate 25th National Technology Day 2023. To commemorate National Technology Day this year, we have with us Dr. V. Thirupugal, retired IAS, Chairman, Advisory Committee on Mitigation and Management of Floods in Chennai Metro, and former Additional Secretary, Policy and Plan, NDMA, as a chief guest. I now cordially welcome our chief guest to kindly adorn the dais. I request our director, Dr. N. Anandavalli, Dr. J. Rajasankar, Chief Scientist, CSIR, SERC, Dr. G. S. Palni, Chief Scientist, CSIR, SERC, to join the chief guest on the dais, please. Let's start the function with invocation. May I request all of you to please rise.
நீராறும் கடலுடுத்த நிலமடந்தை கெழிலொழுகும் சீராறும் வதனமென திகழ்பரத கண்டமதில் தெக்கணமும் அதிர்சிறந்த திராவிடனுள் திருநாடும் தக்க சிறு பிறை நுதலும் தரித்தனரும் திலகமுமே அத்திலக வாசனை போல் அனைத்துலகம் இன்பமுற எத்திசையும் புகழ் மணக்க இருந்த பெரும் தமிழனங்கே உன் சீரிழமை திறம்பியந்து செயல் மறந்து வாழ்த்துதுமே
Thank you, sir. Respected Chief Guest, respected Director, and my dear colleagues, National Technology Day is celebrated every year on May 11th to commemorate the achievements of engineers and scientists in the field of technology and science. The day holds significance of three historic technological achievements. Firstly, to mark the anniversary of Pokhran nuclear test in 1998, on this same day in 1999, India witnessed one of its greatest technological advancements as the scientists flew the first indigenous aircraft, Hansa 3 at Bangalore. And final test fire of the Trishul missile, a part of India's integrated guided missile development program, was also conducted on May 11th. This year, we are celebrating 25th Technology Day with a theme of Integrated Approach in Science and Technology for a Sustainable Future. To begin today's event, I request our beloved director, Dr. N. Anandavalli, to present welcome address.
Chief guest of today's function, Dr. V. Thirupugal, Chairman, Advisory Committee on Mitigation and Management of Floods in Chennai Metro, and former Additional Secretary, National Disaster Mitigation Authority, Dr. J. Rajasankar, Head Skill and Human Resource Development Division, and Dr. G. S. Palni, Head Tower Testing Research Station, Dr. Bharat Kumar, Advisor, Heads of the Laboratories, Scientists in charge of regional units of this CSIR Madras complex, my dear brothers and sisters of this campus, invited guests, present media, ladies and gentlemen, Vanakkam, Namaskar and good evening to you all. It is indeed a great pleasure to welcome you all on this special occasion of National Technological Day. National Technological Day is celebrated on May 11th every year, as we all know, to commemorate the achievements of the scientists, researchers, engineers, and all others involved in the field of science and technology. It is a day to remind Indians about the technological advancement made by the country. And the day also marks the anniversary of Pokhran nuclear test under the leadership of aerospace engineer and President APJ Abdul Kalam. On May 11, 1998, India successfully conducted its first nuclear tests, and this day holds immense historical and cultural significance, highlighting the country's commitment to innovation and the pursuit of technological advancement. In 1998, on this day, India became the sixth country to join the nuclear club. After its successful test, the then Prime Minister Atal Bihari Vajpayee coined the term National Technological Day. And also on the same day, as highlighted by the earlier speaker, Hansa was first tested, and also the first National Technology Day was observed on May 11th, 1999. Since then, it is observed every year. And the National Technology Day serves as a reminder of India's remarkable strides in scientific and technological advancements. It is a day to honor the brilliance of Indian scientists, engineers, and technologists who have made significant contributions to various fields, including space exploration, defense technology, healthcare, engineering, communication, and agriculture. This provides a platform to recognize and appreciate the efforts of Indian scientists and technocrats have played a crucial role in the nation's progress. And it also serves as an inspiration to the young minds to pursue the career in science, technology, engineering, and mathematics fields, fostering a culture of innovation and research in the country. Today, Prime Minister Shri Narendra Modi had inaugurated the program at Pragati Maidan, and the program also marks the commencement of the celebration of 25th year of the National Technology Day, which is scheduled between 11th to 14th May this year. And on this momentous occasion, Prime Minister has laid the foundation stone and dedicated to the nation multiple projects related to scientific and technological advancement in the country worth more than 5,800 crores rupees. This is in line with the Prime Minister's vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat through strengthening scientific institutions in the country. The projects include Laser Inframeter Gravitational Wave Observatory, Homi Bhabha Cancer Hospital and Research Center, Platinum Jubilee Block of Tata Memorial Hospital. And the many projects were dedicated to the nation, including Fission Molybdenum 99 Production Facility Mumbai, Rare Earth Permanent Magnet Plant Visakhapatnam, National Hadron Beam Theory Facility Navi Mumbai, Radiological Research Unit Navi Mumbai, Homi Bhabha Cancer Hospital and Research Center Visakhapatnam, and Women and Children Cancer Hospital Navi Mumbai. And this year, the program and celebration marks the National Technology Day 2023 with a special focus on Atal Innovation Mission with a theme on School to Startups, Igniting Egg Minds to Innovate. The Atal Innovation Mission Pavilion of this year's celebration, Pragati Maidan, will showcase multiple innovative projects and provide an opportunity for the visitors to witness live tinkering sessions, engage in tinkering activities, witness outstanding innovations and products by the startups. Innovation starts with creativity. Naturally, children are very creative due to their inquisitiveness and open-mindedness. It is the parents and sometimes the teachers expect them to be well-behaved and well-mannered and stop their creative skills. So it is high time that we need to nurture them. And observing nature also will help us to learn new things and bring innovations. While abstract concept is creativity, physical form is invention, and making it usable is innovation. And towards this theme, CSIR, SCRC and CSIR Madras Complex has carried out several activities by conducting lecture series, visit of scientists to schools, Jigyasa student competition, and workshops for students and teachers. Also, our scientists are assigned with responsibility of mentoring the Atal Tinkering Laboratories in selected schools. So, science and technology is critical to tackle complex challenges for humanity such as climate change, biodiversity loss, pollution and poverty reduction, as it lays the foundation for new approaches and solutions. Transforming scientific breakthrough into new technologies can have a profound impact on development. One challenge of sustainable development is to use technology in such a way that it balances advances in productivity with long-term resource viability. This is a critical role for sustainable science as it promotes cross-disciplinary approaches to advance the understanding of human environment interactions and systems and how these interactions affect the challenge of the sustainability. The scientists of CSIR, SERC and CSIR Madras Complex are working in cutting-edge technologies and have developed a number of innovative and sustainable technologies that are ready to be deployed. Many of these technologies have been already licensed to entrepreneurs for commercialization. To name a few, I'll start with CSIR. SERC had intervened through their expertise in solving a number of challenging engineering problems. Health assessment of dam structure using acoustic emission testing and advanced NDT for Polavaram irrigation project, structural adequacy of steel concrete composite railway bridges and retractive efforts for RDSO, identification of defects in the honeycomb composite panels by lamb wave propagation techniques using 3D scanning laser Doppler vibrometer for GE India. Hydrostatic pressure studies were successfully carried out for the first time in the country on carbon fiber reinforced plastic sandwich segments to evaluate their structural performance. And these composite segments are meant for constructing the critical component of the ships. And simultaneous slosh and vibration studies were carried out on an external auxiliary fuel drop tank of light combat helicopter. And these studies were highly challenging and were successfully carried out for the first time in the country to evaluate the performance of the tank and qualify for its functioning in LCH. And also a number of investigations on TG foundation and supporting structures, including condition assessment of civil structures, and a number of technologies ready to be deployed such as emergency retrieval system, textile reinforced concrete prototyping technology, energy dissipating replaceable fuse elements for steel beam column connections, and a number of technologies in pipeline also like geopolymer foam concrete technology, conductive cement concrete embedded sensors for dual sensing of static and dynamic monitoring in structures, and laminated vibration isolators with magnetorheological elastomers. These are a few of the contributions of CSIR SERC during this period. And also coming to the units, safe distance demarcation for stone crushing industries from habitation, green cracker development for reduced emission for Sivakasi industries, low cost durable fuel cell analysis, low cost sensor for water quality parameters are some of the major technological inventions from Chennai unit of NEERI. And NML has achieved a number of major technology commercialization by successfully accomplishing the setting up of 200 tons per day capacity commercial scale flotation column plant for processing of coal fines at the coal washeries. And they have also developed a graphene based membrane technology for water purification from low grade graphite ore using natural source based graphite and flotation reagents, and also biodegradable flotation reagent for recovery of silicium from high mineral beach sand. And Chennai Center of CD had developed a number of technology based on artificial intelligence, namely multinodal sensing system for non-contact monitoring system, waste plastic sorting system using near infrared spectrometry, dual energy X-ray baggaging scanning system, wearable devices for multiple health parameter health, fatigue and fitness monitoring. And today, indeed, we are very fortunate to have Dr. V. Tirupugal, Chairman, Advisory Committee on Mitigation and Management of Floods in Chennai Metro, with us to celebrate this year's National Technological Day. He is a multifaceted personality, and as an IAS officer, he has served the nation for nearly 30 years. He was instrumental in preparing the first ever National Disaster Management Plan. I thank you, sir, for accepting our invitation amidst your busy schedule. And I once again welcome you all and conclude with a Tirukural, Epurul Ettanmayadayinum Appurul Meipurul Kanbadarivu, which means that analyzing the information, understanding the meaning, and accepting the fact will help one to gain profound knowledge. Hence, true knowledge is the ability to understand the truth behind people, things, and events. Thank you all.
I request our director to felicitate our chief guest with a shawl. Thank you, sir, ma'am. We are honored to have with us Chief Guest Dr. V. Thirupugal, retired IAS, who has significantly contributed for disaster management as a policy maker, researcher, administrator, and as a teacher, to present National Technology Day lecture. I now request Dr. J. Rajashankar, Chief Scientist, CSIR SERC, to introduce the chief guest. Yes, sir.
Chief guest of the day's function, Dr. V. Thirupugal, IAS retired, Chairman Advisory Committee on Mitigation and Management of Floods in Chennai Metro, and former Additional Secretary. And it's a great moment for all of us, sir, in introducing. I just take a lot of pleasure in introducing you to the audience, our own colleagues. Your name was reverberating in this campus a few years before in our Arts Research Council. In connection with our findings and implementation in the National Code. And okay, now I'll go to the formal introduction of our chief guest. As an officer of Indian Administrative Service, Dr. Thirupugal has nearly 30 years of experience in various aspects of disaster and general administration, both of the grassroots level, that's what to be noted, grassroots level, as well as at the state and national level. And he has over 20 years of experience in disaster management at the state, national, and international level, and involved in policy, planning, response, recovery, and reconstruction, all the facets of a disaster, before and after the disaster. That's like he has a lot of hands-on experience. And with over 10 years of work at the ground, at the sub-district and districts, he was involved in various rescue and relief, mitigation and preparedness. And he played a key role in setting up Gujarat Institute of Disaster Management for training stakeholders, and served as the executive director of the same for about 8 years. I think if someone of you have visited the Gujarat State Disaster and GSDMA website, you need a lot of information. There was pioneering effort, I think, from our chief guest, Dr. Thirupugal. And he deserves a special applause for that. And again, Dr. Thirupugal headed a team that drafted the Gujarat State Disaster Management Act and as well as policy. He was instrumental in preparing the first ever National Disaster Management Plan. He played a key role in preparation of several national guidelines, such as guidelines on minimum standards of relief. There's a minimum standards of relief, guidelines on preparation of heat wave action plan, guidelines on management of thunderstorm and lightning, national guidelines for preparation of action plan for cold wave. All forms of disasters he has a lot of wide experience. Disability inclusive disaster management and temporary shelters, to name a few. And coming to the other facet, he has an experience of teaching disaster management to graduate and postgraduate students in India as well as abroad as a visiting professor. And Dr. Thirupugal has authored many book chapters and journal articles related to disaster management. He completed his PhD in disaster management from the Australian National University, Canberra, to combine his practical experience with a wider academic context to contribute to the cause of disaster risk reduction. Currently, that's most important for all of us. Currently, he is helping the government of Tamil Nadu for flood risk reduction in Chennai as the chairman of Advisory Committee for Flood Risk Reduction in Chennai Metro. Sir, this is very special. My personal request also ask my colleagues. We'll be very happy when your name was proposed for this plan. We are so happy that there's something going to be concretely happening in Chennai. And our campus was severely affected during several floods. And we'll be happy to welcome you, sir. And Coming to the end part, during his tenure in Indian Administrative Service, he has won many awards naturally that follows, including the Best District Development Officer, Best Collector, President's Silver Medal for Census Operations. These are only few. There are many more, I believe. Thank you, sir, with your small introduction about you. This is what you gave me. Definitely, if I collect, I'll get more. Thank you. I'll welcome you, sir.
இருக்கு இது போதுமே. I will not move. I will not walk. எங்க பாயிண்ட் பண்ணுது சார்? பெருசிருக்குல இதை பார்க்க. You should focus here or here? Here. அப்படியே லைட் சொல்லு. இல்லை வேண்டாம். தேங்க்யூ. Should I speak in Tamil or English or mixed? Okay, thank you very much. India has the largest number of technically qualified people in the world. But has this number translated itself into reality on the ground, particularly in the context of disaster risk reduction and disaster management? If we look at the increasing number of disasters in the world, this slide is analyzing the increasing trend of disasters over a period of 118 years, from 1900 to 2018. You see that the total number of disasters have increased by leaps and bounds all over the world as well as in Asia. In fact, Asia contributes more than 60% of the total disasters occurring in the world because it is the largest continent, biggest landmass, most hazardous continent, and most populated continent. So all the requirements for converting a hazard into a disaster are there in Asia. So you can see that disasters have increased. What are the reasons? One is population, increase in population. Compare the population in 1900 in India to 2018. 22 crores to today 140 crores. Sevenfold increase in population, and so is the global population. The second is increase in assets, and then concentration of assets and population. Density creates more exposure. So concentration of assets and population, and changing climate, increasing urbanization, unplanned urban growth, all these are contributing to this increasing trend of disasters. If we do some further analysis, we find that certain types of disasters are increasing while certain types of disasters are not increasing. Storms are increasing, floods are increasing, cyclones are increasing, whereas earthquakes are not increasing, which means hydrometeorological disasters are increasing in number, whereas geophysical events are not increasing. You see an increase in earthquake. This is mostly due to better reporting. The small tremors and earthquakes which were not reported earlier, due to improvement in IT, communication, documentation and all these things, we are able to capture all those small events also. It is more due to better documentation and reporting rather than the actual number of events. So it is hydrometeorological events which are increasing. This is attributed to the changing climate, resulting in extreme weather events. We see floods are increasing. We see that storms are increasing. Heat waves are increasing. Cold waves are increasing. Lightning and thunderstorm incidents are increasing. All these are attributed to the changing climate. If we look at the 30 years, the last 30 years in the history of disasters in India, first comes Latur. Latur earthquake, which occurred in 1993, in which more than 6,000 people lost their lives. All of you must be aware that before the occurrence of earthquake in Latur, Latur was classified in zone 1. When small tremors were happening before this earthquake occurred on 30th of September in 1993, before this, small tremors happened there and people were afraid. A bunch of scientists were sent by Maharashtra government to tell the people that don't worry, you are in zone 1, nothing will happen. This earthquake occurred and then they had to upgrade it to zone 3. Second is Orissa cyclone in 1998, I think 1998, in which over 10,000 people died. Large number of people died and 15 lakh houses were damaged, heavy losses. Then Gujarat earthquake, which I personally experienced, which I personally handled in 2001, 26th January 2001, 13,805 people lost their lives. The biggest disaster in the post-independent India. 12 lakh houses were either completely collapsed or partially damaged. 45,000 school rooms collapsed. 3,000 health sector buildings collapsed. 1,500 government buildings collapsed. Large number of bridges, irrigation structures, electrical installations, substations, etc. collapsed. More than 2 lakh people lost their livelihoods, and it is the biggest disaster in the post-independent India. Then comes Indian Ocean tsunami in 2004, Boxing Day tsunami, in which more than 7,000 people lost their lives in India. As a result of all this, Government of India as well as various state governments started focusing on disaster risk reduction. Earlier, while these disasters were happening, the approach was focus on response, search and rescue, saving lives, and providing relief in the aftermath of the disaster. And if the disaster was massive, then it was followed by post-disaster reconstruction. After this successive massive disasters, the state governments started thinking about disaster risk reduction, moving away from a relief-centric approach to prevention and mitigation-centric approach. Then came this Oki cyclone in 2017, very recently, in which more than 250 people lost their lives, over 700 are missing. 700, they are still in the missing list because there is a mandatory period of 7 years waiting before you declare a missing person as dead. Otherwise, for all practical purposes, you can take them as dead person. Over 900 people died very recently, before 5 years. What happened? Why so much of loss of lives and so much of loss of property? What is the reason? The number one reason is lack of technology. We didn't have adequate technology for saving the lives of people. We didn't have good search and rescue equipments. I will discuss this in detail as we proceed. Second is, there was no transfer of technology from lab to land. Technology existed, but existed confined to the labs. If we actually had succeeded in transferring all that we do in the lab, do you think 12 lakh houses would have collapsed? 15 lakh houses would have been damaged in Orissa cyclone? Still such massive damages are happening in cyclones. And we don't pay attention to it because the loss of life is less. So the reporting is not sensational, nobody bothers about it. Otherwise, huge property damage is happening in India. The third is lack of sophisticated equipment with the government. Fourth, lack of advanced modeling for forecast. I remember very well, during Odisha cyclone, till the last minute, landfall could not be predicted accurately. I remember before 35, 40 years, when I started my career, the forecast would be the landfall will be somewhere from Kanyakumari to Machilipatnam. Now it is far better, very, very accurate. So models were not there, computer-driven models, and lack of early warning systems to warn people. Like Tamil Nadu tsunami, we didn't have a warning system for warning people before actually tsunami waves struck the coast. Then came lack of communication. This I experienced in Gujarat earthquake. All the mobile towers collapsed in the earthquake. So there was absolutely no way of communicating with the people in the affected areas. Even administrators, collectors, and police people could not communicate with the state administration. It took us at least 4 to 5 hours to find out that Kutch district is the worst affected area. Otherwise, everybody focused on Ahmedabad because multi-story buildings collapsed. So everybody rushed to Ahmedabad. Everybody thought that Ahmedabad was the worst affected area, but it was Kutch which was worst affected. In Kutch also, finding out Bachau was the worst affected area took us some more time. So there was absolutely lack of communication. And then, many of you must have visited Kutch in the aftermath of the earthquake. In many places in Kutch, the ground floors became underground and first floors became the ground floors and the whole building sunk in. So when our fire and emergency service people went for search and rescue, we couldn't ascertain whether people are alive there in the buried floor. We didn't have sophisticated equipments. We didn't have this camera attached, long probes which can be sent in and see whether people are there. Some foreign teams brought it when they came, and then for the first time we saw it with them. They used it. We didn't have them. Then jacks for lifting. We could see people there, buried there, alive, crying for help. We couldn't pull them out because we didn't have adequate capacity jacks for lifting the building. And then we didn't have concrete cutters. We didn't have sophisticated equipments with us. Technology was available elsewhere. The foreign teams brought them, but we didn't have it here. And then advanced communication systems. This is with reference to the Oki cyclone. As late as 2017, we couldn't warn all the fishermen in the sea. Fishermen, before the warning was issued, they went into the sea. This was a very abnormal cyclone. Within 24 hours, it upgraded itself from a severe low pressure and then cyclone, and severe cyclone, it upgraded itself. So we didn't have adequate time to warn the people in the sea, and people were already in the deep sea, 400 kilometers, 500 kilometers, 600 kilometers inside the sea. We couldn't warn them at all. This number, 700 people missing, is basically the people who stayed in this deep sea. So we didn't have advanced communication technology at that time to warn them. Navig and other systems were developed after this only. As a result of all these things, Government of India thought that there is a need for a specialized body to look at mitigation and prevention, not just to respond to the disasters after they occur. The first step started in Gujarat after passing of the Disaster Management Act in 2003. I was part of the team or heading the team which drafted this act. I do remember there was a lot of resistance from various quarters saying that why do you need an act for disaster management? There will be a lot of court cases. There are various already existing acts and provisions. They are adequate enough and all. Somehow, Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority convinced them, and we went ahead in formulating this act. Soon, drawing an inspiration from this act, the National Act was framed in 2005. NDMA was set up as the apex agency for disaster management in the country in 2005. through an executive order. And then NDRF, National Disaster Response Force, was set up in the year 2006. And SDMAs were also set up following the enactment of the Act in 2005. These steps were taken. NDMA's vision emphasizes on the use of technology for disaster risk reduction. To build a safer and disaster resilient India by a holistic, proactive, technology driven, and it goes so. Usually, we all draft mission statements very, very badly. No institution will be able to remember its vision statement. Everything under the sun, we wanted to go into the vision statement. I consider it as a very poorly drafted vision statement. I am showing it here because it is emphasizing on technology-driven approach. Why do we have to emphasize on technology-driven approach? Because we do not have control over many other factors which contribute to the vulnerability. The solution has to come from technology. In 2016, India hosted the Asian Ministerial Conference for Disaster Risk Reduction, AMC-DRR, in which Honorable Prime Minister spoke about 10 points which will help disaster risk reduction. And one of those 10 points was focus on technology, leveraging technology to enhance the efficiency of disaster risk management. So he rightly emphasized on using technology for a disaster risk reduction. After that, National Disaster Management Authority was formed in 2005. National Act was passed in 2005, but the national plan was prepared in 2016. I landed up in National Disaster Management Authority in the year 2015, September, and I prepared it, and then it was launched in June 2016, the first ever national plan. Then it was revised in 2019, and the second improved version was launched in 2019, November. The plan talks about effective use of technology, effective use of science, technology, and traditional knowledge in all aspects of DRR. I'm not able to read it properly, the contrast is not there. See, effective use of science and technology. That is our vision statement also. Why have we emphasized on traditional knowledge? Why should we still carry this old burden of traditional knowledge? Today, what we talk about as great technology will be considered as traditional knowledge after 300 years, 400 years. So what we consider as traditional knowledge today, was once upon a time disruptive technology. We should remember that. Many of them are still valid. The great disruptive technologies in the world, invention of the wheel, invention of fire, making a weapon for killing an animal using a stone, all these were done in Paleolithic age. So we must find out a way of integrating traditional knowledge with a modern technology. That is very important. That is why NDMP emphasizes on that. Second is adopting the best global technologies. We need not invent things again and again. We need not keep inventing the wheel. It has been invented by somebody, so we have to adopt it. Then, NDMP talks about identifying technology needs based on hazard risk vulnerability. So what are our hazards, country-specific hazards, state-specific hazards, and what are our vulnerabilities, and what type of technology we want to reduce disaster risk based upon this hazard and vulnerability assessment, and procurement of best and most appropriate equipment. This is very important, but it was very difficult. That is why the plan specifically emphasizes on this. Many times we used to go for L1, least cost method. That was the only method available. But we said that in this document, no, we want the best. When it is the question of saving the lives of people, there is no L1, because The value of human life cannot be monetized. When we say that in this disaster, so many millions of dollars were lost, we are not putting a value on human life. For example, in Gujarat earthquake, the total loss was estimated to be about $10 billion. 13,805 people died, but we didn't monetize human lives. There is no value. How will you calculate the value of human life? Supposing a 20-year-old person dies, we can say that he will work for another 40 more years, so this much he would be earning, so his value is this much. But what about a 90-year-old person? Does it mean that the value of his life is zero? No. So we don't monetize human life. So we said that when it is a question of saving the lives of people, there is no L1. Go for QCBS. If you find it absolutely necessary, go for only quality-based selection. So NDMA talks about it to bring the best technology. And then it emphasizes on disaster information system. We don't have a disaster information system. We don't have a database. If somebody asks anybody, even the government officials, what is the total disaster loss in 2021 or 2021 in India, all of India, we don't have a database. We have to go to EMDAT, Emergency Management Database, which is managed in Belgium to tell what is the loss in our country. So there is no comprehensive database. That is why NDMP talks about it. And then fail-safe communication technology. Many times communication fails, and hence the search and rescue forces are not able to reach the site properly in time. The golden hour is lost. Hence, we say that you need adequate redundancy in communication. And then NDMP also talks about increasing the networks, observation networks, automatic weather stations, seismographs, information systems, monitoring. It emphasizes quite a lot on research, forecasting and early warning, zoning, mapping, and all other things which you can do using the advanced technology which is available now. And it also points out certain things which are being widely used elsewhere, also in India in some parts, GIS, GPS, drones, artificial intelligence. And I'm not going to read this list, it's a long list, so you can read for yourself. All these are clearly mentioned in the National Disaster Management Plan. Now, the first thing is we need to have a proper hazard risk assessment, which takes into account vulnerability and exposure. So in this, we can use all the available technology. We can use remote sensing, satellite imageries, drones, LIDAR surveys, and what have you, even artificial intelligence. The plan talks about it. And using technology for response, for saving lives, for better early warning, emergency communication, search and rescue, and medical response. And then for mitigation, proper land use planning using the latest technology available, microzonation, flood zonation, and all related maps. And for damage assessment, in damage assessment, there are two levels of damage assessment. First, we do a rapid assessment to find out where there is loss, to rush relief material, to mobilize money and other things, to have a broad plan so that we can negotiate with international funding organizations for loan. A state government can submit a proposal to the central government for seeking assistance and all the rest of it. The second assessment is detailed damage assessment for the purpose of reconstruction, where you may need to go building by building and assess the damage and provide solutions accordingly. So for this initial rapid damage assessment, technology can help. And then for reconstruction and recovery. When we reconstruct an area, there is a question of rebuilding the schools, hospitals, other utilities. Through the use of technology, we did it in Gujarat. We used the GIS to locate schools, hospitals, and sub-centers so that everybody in that area could have access and equidistant from all the nearby villages. Otherwise, earlier, it was located arbitrarily due to various reasons, and that was corrected during reconstruction. I was seeing what are the best practices recently adopted by countries using technology. One of the best practices, the technology used in Fukushima in Japan after the 2011 triple disaster. It's called triple disaster because there was an earthquake which triggered a tsunami, and this tsunami hit the atomic power plant and it resulted in a nuclear disaster. For 6 years, nobody could go inside and locate the lost fuel. They have been trying and trying. Human beings were initially sent, they couldn't go and tried missions. Nothing succeeded. But later, I think in 2016, a small robo was designed to operate underwater with severe radiation exposure, succeeded in locating the missing fuel inside the reactor zone. It's a great use of technology. Otherwise, we could not have been able to do it. The second is the use of Twitter in our own Chennai in 2015. When all other communication systems failed, people used Twitter as an effective means of communication based on which search and rescue teams could be directed to the needy areas and relief could be directed. And then in Vanuatu, drones were effectively used for post-disaster loss assessment and need assessment. Very effective use of drones. And then in Mexico, after 2014 hurricane, they used big data to find out the financial transactions that were happening. Who is doing what after the disaster, where money is going, what is really happening, they need to find out, and big data technologies really helped Mexican government. These are all very good practices. But, what is this but? But these technologies are all post-disaster interventions. After the disaster occurred, these technologies were deployed. And then, what do we have as the best technological intervention to talk about prevention and mitigation? At the global level also, I am not able to find much. And then, what is the technological solution which we have used to build resilience on a larger scale? There is no point in talking about retrofitting a building or using base excellent technology in one hospital in Kutch. That doesn't make any sense. So, how much resilience we have built in this country using our technology? And then, what capacity building have we done so that adequate resilience could be built? I remember in Gujarat State Disaster Management Authority, we want to retrofit about 4,000 schools and hospitals in Zone 4 and 5. When we issued the tenders, there were not adequate firms participating in the tender process because there is no adequate capacity. We keep talking about retrofitting of public buildings, retrofitting of bridges, retrofitting of hospitals, retrofitting of schools. But imagine if all the state governments which are in earthquake-prone zone issues tenders for retrofitting all their public buildings. Do you think it is possible? Do we have enough trained manpower to undertake that even if governments are willing to spend? And then I am looking at some of the disasters which occurred in the recent past over a couple of 2 to 3 years. Floods in Gujarat, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Assam, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Landslides in Manipur and Meghalaya. Flash floods in Amarnath and J&K. And this glacial lake outburst flood in Uttarakhand, where 200 people were washed away in Rishiganga project site. And then many cyclones in Bay of Bengal, and heat wave in many parts of India, lightning and thunderstorm. To what extent were we successful in using technology for prevention, mitigation and response? If we talk about the disasters that occurred before 30 years or 20 years, Latur earthquake or Gujarat earthquake, Orissa cyclone, we can say we didn't have adequate technology, we didn't have adequate trained people, we didn't have a legal framework which talks about disaster mitigation and prevention, we didn't have adequate funds for that, all this can be said. But in the disasters which occurred in the recent past, how much prevention and mitigation have we done? Did the possibilities translate into realities? We talk about so many possibilities, but have they actually translated into realities? Have we done any study, evaluative study? How much we have succeeded? How much we have failed? Where is the gap? What is the reason? I don't think there is any study available. Now, Government of India is looking at various technologies for sorting out all these problems to a certain extent. One is Common Alert Protocol. This has already been pilot tested. It is in the process of being put into implementation. With a lot of redundancies built in communication system, so the same message will go through internet, mobile phone, television, radio, and what have you. So this Common Alert Protocol system is being tried now, an emergency response support system. And third is Government of India is building an integrated control room in the Ministry of Home. Fourth is Disaster Management Information System, which I said is not there. They are in the process of building a disaster management information system. And better cyclone forecasts by IMD. We all know that cyclone forecasts have improved a lot, but still they are trying to improve it. They are looking at impact-based forecasts. And then chemical, industrial, and disaster management through GIS-based planning and response. All these are in the pipeline at the Government of India level. What are the advantages which are going to emanate from this? One is speed of response, accuracy of response, and it will reduce the cost of human cost, improved modeling facilities, improved communication facilities, all these being looked at. But there are many challenges and many issues. What are those issues? One is most of the focus, even what Government of India is doing right now, most of the focus is on post-disaster response rather than pre-disaster mitigation and prevention. Second is, if you take the technology itself, the lifespan is short-lived. It becomes obsolete in a short time. Our government procurement procedure, all of you know it, so it may take 8 months, 9 months, or 1 year also. By the time you get it, it will become obsolete. Then we get into a technology trap. Constantly you have a need to upgrade it. Upgrade the software or the hardware, because in this hardware the software will not work, or that software will not work in your hardware. So you get into this technology trap of constant upgrading. And then cost of upgrades. Sometimes it is not cost effective. Sometimes you go say that I want to upgrade this, a very old one. You will say that this will cost so much, but you have to throw it away and you can buy a new one. That seems to be better. But government will not give permission for that. Problems with upgradation in government. This is what I said. Compatibility issues with communicating while communicating with external systems. So each system has a protocol of its own equipments. So these compatibility issues raise, and lack of standardization. If you want to call for a good technology for something, then the standardization is not there. The X vendor will claim that I have these features, the Y will claim I have this Z, and somebody will have that I have X. You will say this is the best, this is the most suitable. Then as usual we constitute a committee, as usual there is a confusion. They select some specifications, you tender out, then there are court case, litigations, allegations, all the rest follows. So there is no standardization. Issues related to procurement starts. And then the current technology results in a lot of fake news. This is a fake news which was sent in the name of former American President Barack Obama. He is saying that I want to give it back to the community. You give me $1,000, I will return $2,000. These sort of things happen in our country, we have seen. If you give $1,000, 1,000 rupees, after 15 days you can take 2,000 rupees. But they had issued one in the name of Obama. So the issues are fake news and false alerts. Many times false alerts are given. If you keep on giving false alerts, then when real alert is given, people will not respond. Then failure of technology. This is collapse of mobile towers in Gujarat. I spoke about it. This is failure of technology. Then failure of users. I have seen this in Gujarat. 2 years before the occurrence of Gujarat earthquake, government of Gujarat bought and distributed satellite phones to all the collectors. And they had all kept it because satellite phone, it was very expensive, very costly. Safely all collectors had kept it under lock and key. When the disaster occurred, there was no battery, there was no charge, electricity was not there. And many of them did not know how to operate, capacity building was not there. Finally, in the Kutch collectorate, they had to take it out and connect it to a police jeep for the battery connection, and then they could communicate. So sometimes the failure of the users, not the failure of technology. And communication failures. The mobile towers in Tamil Nadu, mobiles did not function because the service providers had kept all their batteries at the ground level or the underground level, so that all of them were flooded. Then lack of political will. This is very, very important. Lack of political will, as in the case of Puerto Rico in 2017 in Mariam Hurricane. To be on the safer side, I have gone for an example in America. Otherwise, we can cite a lot of examples here also. Political will. Why Puerto Rico is part of America, where all the latest technology is available. The warning was given 5 days in advance, but still over 3,000 people are missing still. You can safely consider them as dead. As I said earlier, this is mandatory waiting period for declaring them as dead. Why? Because there was no political will. Puerto Rico is not part of their mainstream. People they are living there did not matter, and various other issues. You can go and read a lot of articles written on this subject from sociological perspective. Why attention was not paid? So lack of political will. We must remember that disaster management is not an issue of technology. It's not an issue of money. It is basically an issue of political will. Then, society is not monolithic. Society is diverse. The technological solutions you give in America may not work in a different country, different culture, a different society, a different mindset. It will not work. Then there is a need to understand people and communities. That's very, very important when you are developing technology. To whom are we giving this technology? The sociology and politics of disasters. I will explain it a bit in the later slides. You have to understand this disasters from sociological perspective as well as from the political perspective. And also we need to understand the ground realities. Otherwise, technology will create more problems than it solves. I will not mention the name of the city, but I will mention the issue. The city developed its first master plan. That master plan was developed through people actually going from place to place, mapping the water bodies, mapping the utilities. Manually it was done, perfectly it was done, there were no disputes, accurate. Then the second time, when the master plan was done, they had a lot of technology available. So they used satellite imagery and mapped the water bodies and then issued a notification said, these are water bodies, no conversion of land from agriculture purpose to non-agriculture purpose will be given in these areas. It was frozen. Then you find the plethora of court cases because when the satellite imagery was taken, it had rained a couple of days before, and there was stagnated water in many private lands, as we call pata lands in Tamil Nadu, we call it pata lands, or private lands elsewhere. So all those stagnated water areas which were owned by individuals were shown as water bodies. So the government said these are all water bodies, so you cannot convert it. So people went to the court, then disputes, hearings, it went on for a long, long time. So we should understand the ground realities. See, people and experts have different perspectives of what is risk. How an expert understands risk is different from how a common man understands risk. Supposing that we are traveling from this place to Chennai airport and from Chennai airport to Delhi by flight, which is the riskiest part of the journey? Can anyone respond? Huh? By air, isn't it? But that is absolutely wrong, because the riskiest part of the journey is going by road from here to the airport. If you study the number of air accidents and road accidents, the ratio is 6,000 to 1. If 6,000 road accidents happen, flight accident is only 1. Flight is the safest mode of travel on earth. But even we are not able to judge it properly. So when we talk about risks to common man, illiterate people, uneducated people, poor people, how would they understand risk? Unless we change their perception of risk, our technology will not be adopted and used by people. Before we offer technological solutions, there is a need to make people understand risk objectively. And not only that, technology does not only solve problems, technology creates a lot of problems. Technological disasters. What is Chernobyl? It's a technological disaster. What is Bhopal? Again, it is technological disaster. So, that's what Ulrich Beck, one of the greatest sociologists who worked on disasters, says. He wrote an excellent book called The Risk Society. By use of technology, we have created a risk society. Instead of mitigating risk through technology, we have created a risk society. Then we have issues in upgrading pilots. Our technology is successful in a pilot project. You upgrade it at the state level or national level, it fails. In private sector, I've seen this. I've been working in this field for nearly 30 years. Private sector people develop something on their own, then they come to you. This will help you. You have to buy it. They will not only come to you, they will put pressure on you. You have to buy this. And they will say that government is not responding. I went with a superb product, but NDMA is not responding, or this is not responding. But that will not be necessary at all. That will not be useful at all. So when private people venture into inventing products and creating technologies for disaster risk reduction, they should consult people working in the field and ask, what do you need? Then there are issues in taking things from lab to land, as I said. For that, to reduce that, partnership of government with private sector and academia is essential. People working in government in the field of disaster risk reduction should tell what they want, and then further research should be carried out by academia and private bodies. And then, as I said earlier, private companies bring their products and try to push them. So we don't need to have this push approach. We do need a pull approach. What is really needed? And then you have to develop that. And innovations, again I have said that, research by academic world should be based on the understanding of the need of the disaster managers. What do they need? And this is the most important point in the entire presentation. There is a need to understand the social, economic, political, and cultural factors creating disasters. Disasters are not natural and man-made disasters. Usually everybody classifies disasters in that way. Natural disasters. There are natural hazards, man-made hazards. All the disasters are man-made disasters. Our commissions and omissions create this disaster. No disaster affects two people in the same way. It is documented, researched, and analyzed that disasters all over the world affect poor people more than rich people. In this country, it affects the marginalized people much more than the people in the top layer of the society. In the Western countries, the African Americans are more affected in all disasters than the rest of the people. So it is not affecting the people in the same way. There are social factors impacting people differentially, and there are economic factors. Our mode of production itself, despite awareness about climate change, why we are fighting that we will not reduce this mode of production? Because there are economic factors involved. If we focus on carbon reduction, it will cost you more, your profit will come down. So there are economic factors. There are political factors which are necessary. The funds are limited. Where would you allocate it? Would you allocate it for development or would you allocate it for a disaster risk reduction? Mainstreaming disaster management is something which I have been hearing nearly for 20 years on various forums. It has not happened yet. There are political factors. And the fourth is cultural factors. Our age-old traditional cultural practices sometimes creates hazards. So all these factors have to be understood before we apply technology. Scaling disruptive technologies for crisis is essential to have widespread impact and lower development costs, of course, very obvious. Training and capacity building, this is very important. You bring in new technology, but people are not adopting it. So are we training them and building their capacity? That's very, very important. Capacity building of the community should be undertaken. We are always thinking about the capacity of the giver, but have you ever thought about the capacity of the receiver? Are they capable of receiving it? Standardization and compatibility, I have spoken about it already. Then, again, if everybody starts using it without control, it really happened in America. Citizens giving messages and working at cross purposes in California fire in 2017. All sort of commands were, contradictory commands were given and government could not function effectively. How are you going to look at that? So, to whom you should give the technology, that is also important. Giving instructions among themselves and giving contradictory messages created confusion. Then there are legal ramifications, protection, privacy and copyright, and all these issues are there. All these issues should be taken care of before they are deployed in the ground. And availability of data, that's again a problem for coming out with appropriate technical solutions, also policy solutions. You need data, there is dearth of data. And then issues related to upscaling, we've spoken about it. Problems with the land rather than the lab. Government rules and norms sometimes do not allow you to upgrade and things like that. So what is the solution? So Ministry of Science and Technology should work in consultation with the NDMA, SDMAs, and they are required to identify the specific needs and disciplines for further technological research. I am seeing this after attending many such meetings. I attended one meeting, I don't want to mention the name of that institution. They said that we have done this, we have done this, we have done this, we have done this, and you adopt it. Then we had to say, we don't need this, we don't need this, we don't need this. Why did you develop this? They said, they are not developed for your purpose, they are developed for our purpose. But we thought it is useful to you. We had to say that it is not useful to us. So this sort of clear agreement about what is needed should be there. Identify specific institutions and encourage them to take up the need-based research. See, this is very important. Sometimes everybody is working on something and nobody is working on something. Duplication of effort, money, and wastage of time and money. So we have to identify this institution should focus on these are our needs, these are the gaps, and this institution will focus on that. Are we doing it? And the final thing is allowing scope for failure. If somebody is attempting something new, then we should allow scope for failure. The problem with government is that government auditors would expect even a pilot project should succeed. Otherwise, they will say that why it failed. I will say that pilot is meant to fail. You learn lessons only if it fails. If it succeeds, one of the reasons where upscaling of pilot project fails is because when a project succeeds, we don't analyze the reasons for its success. We assume that it is because of us, it has succeeded. And then we upscale it and we fail. So there should be enough scope allowed for failure if you are experimenting. See, this is very important. One is, we have to understand the difference between principles, techniques, and technologies. Technologies and techniques keep changing. That's what I said. What we consider as disruptive technology today is going to be obsolete one day if it is irrelevant. It will be considered as traditional technology if it still has some relevance. But principles are very important. They are eternal. What is governance? If you read about good kings who lived before 2000 years, read about Ashoka, you see that he gave good governance. What did he do? Planted trees, We created roads, provided water, provided employment opportunities, ensured peace and social justice. Today also, good governance means the indicators of good governance are the same things. But the only thing is, you use different technology, you use different techniques to deliver the same things. Principles are eternal. If you have cataract in your eye, if you want to see clearly, it has to be removed. Earlier it was done manually. Once upon a time it must have been done in a crude way, then manually. Today you are having laser technology, but the principle remains the same. So before we talk about any technology, we should not think that technology will solve the problems. We should understand that we cannot sacrifice the principles for the sake of technology, and technology should adopt itself for the principles. These are some of the things which I wanted to highlight on this day. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. It's a privilege to hear from you about transfer of technology from lab to land for disaster management, which requires systematic approach to manage the responsibilities of disaster prevention and its mitigation, preparedness, response, damage assessment, reconstruction, and recovery using technologies. I now request to Dr. G.S. Palani, Chief Scientist, CSIR, SERC, to give a brief on the 1 week 1 lab campaign.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, I'll just talk about this 1 week 1 lab program campaign to be organized by CSIR SERC. On 26 September 2022, Union Minister Dr. Jitendra Singh announced 1 week 1 lab theme-based campaign to showcase technologies and breakthroughs and innovations in each of the 37 CSIR laboratories and institutes across the country. During the campaign, each CSIR lab shall be organizing week-long events including industry, startups meet, students connect, society connect, display of technologies, etc. to showcase our R&D capabilities. Dr. Kalachelvi, DG CSIR, added that the 1 week 1 lab campaign of CSIR is a way to establish the right connect to showcase not only our technological breakthroughs and innovations in CSIR laboratories, but also future technologies of CSIR labs which they are currently focused on working. We at CSIR Structural Engineering Research Center propose to conduct series of events from 5th June to 10th June 2023, such as Society Connect, Technological Interventions, Interaction with the Policymakers, Stakeholder Connect, Enlightening Technology Presentation, Demonstration and Panel Discussions, then Student Connect event consisting of student-scientist interaction, science quiz and competitions, and Future Entrepreneurs Connect, mainly consisting of technological presentations and demonstrations, and Public Connect involving road shows and exhibitions and presentations and demonstrations. So now it's my privilege to request our chief guest, Dr. V. Thirupugal, to kindly release the brochures of CSIR SERC's 1 week 1 lab campaign.
இப்படி திரும்பி பண்ணணுமா?
இல்ல சார், இங்க இருந்தே பண்ணுங்க சார். அது ஈஸி பண்ணிடுங்க சார். தட் இஸ் நெக்ஸ்ட் யூ சார். கம் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் சார். சார் கொஞ்சம் முன்னாடி வந்துறீங்களா?
Structurally strong package.
No disaster and damage.
we also request our chief guest to inaugurate the CSIR SCRC's website related to this 1 week 1 lab campaign.
Center button. Center. And the கையில.
So it's my pleasure to deliver the vote of thanks for this Technology Day function on behalf of the organizers. Oh, one, two, there. Okay.
I request our director to present a memento to the chief guest. I now invite Dr. G.S. Palani, Chief Scientist, CSIR SERC, to deliver the vote of thanks.
Respected dignitaries on the dais and off the dais, my dear colleagues, invitees, press and media, ladies and gentlemen, very good evening to all of you. It's my pleasant duty to propose the vote of thanks for the Technology Day function on behalf of the organizers. First of all, we thank our chief guest, Dr. V. Thirupugal, Chairman, Advisory Committee on Mitigation and Management of Floods in Chennai Metro, formal Additional Secretary, Policy and Plan, National Disaster Mitigation Authority, for taking off from his busy schedule to deliver the technology lecture on the topic, transfer of technology from lab to land for disaster management. I'm sure that all of you will agree that the lecture delivered by him is one of the very relevant and useful topics as each one of us aspire to transfer our technology to the respective stakeholders for the benefit of the society at large. Aspects covered by him such as damage assessment, mitigation and management of damage with real life examples, including the related technological developments and their impacts are really eye-openers and will pave a long way in our R&D and taking the related technologies to the field. Disaster mitigation has been one of the major areas of R&D of CSIR SCRC, and this lecture will certainly provide a lead to identify the potential deliverables in this area for transferring to field applications. Thank you very much, sir. We would like to thank Dr. Anandavalli, Director CSIR SCRC and Coordinating Director CSIR CMC, and Dr. Bharat Kumar, Advisor Management CSIR SCRC, for the constant support and encouragement for organization of the Technology Day function. We also thank the heads and teams of BKMD, SHRDD, ICT, Administration, Finance and Accounts, Stores and Purchase for the necessary support. Thanks to Mr. Renuga, scientists, for nicely comparing this function. Thanks to the press and media for covering this function. Finally, we thank one and all who have contributed for the successful conduct of this Technology Day function. If we have missed some names, it is definitely not deliberate. We may be excused for the same. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Dear all, that brings us to the end of today's function. I thank each and every one of you for joining today and making this event a grand success. Let us rise for National Anthem.
Himalaya, Ganga, Uchala, Jala.
Pen drive. அது இறக்கி